Welcome to the March 2022 committee meetings of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that the Council is now web streaming its standing committees and council meetings live to the internet, and as such all those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Your attendance at this meeting is your acceptance of the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committees. I now open the March 2022 Infrastructure, Planning and Environment Committee meetings, the time being 5:30 p.m. The first item on the agenda is item IPEC 22/7, leave of absence. The first item of business is apologies, and I've received an apology from Councillor Vicky Etheridge. Can I please have someone to move the apology of Councillor Etheridge that they be accepted? Councillor Chowdhury, thank you. Seconded Councillor Mann. Any questions or debate, councillors? There being none, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. The second item of business is item IPEC 22/8, conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? There being none, we'll keep moving forward to the next item. Item IPEC 22/9, the Wellington Battery Energy Storage System Project. We now have Mr James North from AMPYR Australia to give a presentation on the Wellington BESS project. I invite Mr North forward to the microphone, please.
Thank you. Just opening up the presentation. Hi there. Thank you for having me. My name's James North. I work for Ampere Energy. I've been invited to come to the committee and tell you a bit about the Wellington Battery Energy Storage Project. So next slide, please. That's right. I'll go through an overview of the battery, who's doing it, how big it is, where it is, and the planning requirements we have to consider as part of the planning process, and then the timing of that as well. And then a short section for question and answers. Beautiful. Thank you. So that's the agenda for it. Starting with who's doing it. This is going to be a joint development between Ampere Energy and Shell Energy Operations. We're going to do this together, 50-50, develop it, and the intention is, if all goes to plan, that Shell Energy will operate it as a retailer once it's built and up and operating. It's going to be 500 megawatts, 1,000 megawatts hours, and have all the ancillary kit next to it to generate. It's going to cover a land area of about 5 to 8 hectares once it's complete, and so considerably smaller than a solar plant of similar capacity. It's going to be next door to that Transgrid substation, so a very short connection across to the existing substation. Because of the battery's size, because of the project's size, it's going to need stake significant development approval by the Department of Planning. And as part of that, back in September, we submitted the scoping report to the Department of Planning, and soon after that, in October, they issued the Secretary's environmental assessment requirements, which we have to build our environmental impact statement around. And that's what we're up to now. A bit more about the project. It's a small screen here, but so the tiny dot in the middle in purple is the project site, and if you can see it clearly enough, there's a whole load of other bubbles around that. The orange ones are solar farms, either they've been approval or in planning or under construction or in operation, and similarly the blue ones are wind farms, either in operation or in planning or approved as well. So surrounded by a number of renewable energy projects. Look here a little bit closer. You can see the battery purplish square there is a next door to the existing Wellington Transgrid substation. It's set back from the road. It's across the road from the Wellington solar farm that's under construction, nearing operation. And those greener shades on the slide are the existing transmission routes to and from that Transgrid substation. Looking a little closer, the 5 hectares, that square down to the bottom right, is about 5 hectares. The majority of it will be taken up by the battery systems themselves, and the little orangey pink bit there will be the transformers making up the substation on our side of the project. And then there's a small transmission route, a small line that's the transmission route, about 400 metres across to the existing substation. And so from a planning perspective, we have to, as part of the SEERS, have to consider the impacts on amenity, so noise and vibration, for example, visual impact, social impact assessment, traffic and biodiversity, flora and fauna, and other ones including historic heritage, Aboriginal cultural heritage, the impact on the land use, soil and erosion, and of course hazard and risk assessment as well. So they're all in the process of being worked on at the moment as part of the environmental impact statement. What are the benefits of the project? So this battery should support the renewable energy around it. The main thing is when those renewable energy projects are generating a lot, or when they're exceeding demand of the network, the battery can store energy. And when the demands of the grid is higher than the generation around, the battery can discharge and put that back into the grid to help match supply and demand. By supporting those renewable energy projects, we hope to see a drop in in electricity prices as new wind and solar are the cheapest form of electricity nowadays. It's hopefully going to be able to help with improved grid stability. It can help with frequency control, voltage control, and possibly in emergency events as well. This slide has that it could have up to 50 construction jobs. We're actually considering it could be more than that, up to 100 if construction's quite concentrated. When it's in operation, it'll be more like 1 or 2 people keeping it maintained and operational. And the project aligns with the state's requirements, the regional requirements and expectations for improving the energy security and reliability by increasing storage capacity. It also could play a critical role with the Central West Orana Renewable Energy Zone. It's there, it could be assisting, possibly may reduce the chance of overbuilding any new power lines associated with that by having the storage and discharge capacity here next to the renewable energies that's being built in that zone. So from a planning perspective, that Department of Planning's process, it starts off with that scoping report I mentioned at the start, and then it's got the Department of Planning's provided the SEERS. I've got marks there that we're at that third mark. We're probably more like between the third and the second, so we're consulting with the community and the council now and other stakeholders, but we're also in the middle of preparing the environmental impact assessment, and we hope to hand that over to the Department of Planning in Q2, May, we're looking at. And when that's had its initial review from the Department of Planning, it should be all going smoothly, put up for public exhibition for anyone to review and submit their support or objections to the project. Following that, it's on the project's foot again. We have to respond to all of those and put together a response report and hand that over to the Department of Planning, who will then look at that report alongside the EIS and any other documents we've had to produce to help them determine whether the project should be given development consent. That's the main points. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. North, for that exciting update on a very exciting project. We've seen the effects of climate change on the east coast of Australia in the last 2 weeks, so anything that can be done to mitigate those will be great. Councillors, any questions for Mr. North on that? Councillor Wright.
No. Very good. Thank you, Councillor Black. The question was more about similar projects that may have been undertaken around Australia that may be comparative to this. Any other similar ones?
Yeah, the first one is the Hornsdale Battery, big battery in Victoria. It was completed a few years ago in quick form after the blackouts in South Australia. It's been operating in a grid stability capacity for quite some time. It's about 100 megawatts. It might be 130 megawatts now. It's been expanded, so a bit smaller, but it's a good example. There's a few bigger ones now. They're all looking like 300 to 500 megawatts are in the planning pipeline like this one now to try and offset coal and gas as they come off in the future and support a lot more renewable energy in New South Wales in those renewable energy zones, such as this one.
Thank you, Mr North. Another question from Councillor Dickerson.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. It was actually quite interesting. Councillor Goff, Councillor Ivey and myself went down and had a look at the project physically, along with, I think, Josie and Steve Wallace from our staff were there. And it was fascinating to have a look there and just inspect where it will be, and obviously the proximity to the substation. But Mr North, I'd like to ask him in terms of those jobs, we talked about 50, maybe 100 jobs, what sort of length of construction is that going to take through that, so that, and you talk about maybe 100 jobs as a more concentrated time frame, but have you got some idea of some time frames around there?
Yeah, the time frame for construction is going to be up to 18 months. The lower amount of people in the early stage for about 3 or 4 or 5 months of pre-construction work, but then about 12 months we think of hard, busy construction work with quite a concentration of labour required. Yeah.
Thanks. And just one further follow-up to that, Mr Chairman. That's fantastic, obviously, for the Wellington community to have 50 to 100 jobs for that length of time. And obviously, as we discussed on the day, the idea of what other economic benefits the community might see from this. We talk about 1 or 2 jobs there. We talk about some sort of community benefit fund, but have you got an idea of other benefits the community might see? It's fantastic that the Wellington community is helping to power the state and keep the state stabilised, but it's also good for the community to receive some economic benefits out of that.
Yes, and I can speak on behalf of AMP here that I know that we're keen to put some money back into the local community in the form of a voluntary planning agreement. How much that is, how big it is, official, it needs to be agreed by all the parties a bit further down the line, but it is, we are looking at potential areas of investment into charity in particular that is in the back of our minds to have a local hub set up in Wellington. That's one idea.
Thank you, Mr Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Mann, another question.
Oh yeah, just wondering what's the life cycle of this this plant?
Yes, we're hoping it'll run for 20 years. If you're building a wind farm now, they've been going for long enough to have hope that they'll run for 30 years. But with the battery, we're assuming 20 years at the moment. We'll see how it goes towards the later part of that operation.
And would the plan after that be to renew that site again and go again?
Yeah, there's the option for that at the end. So at the moment with the land agreement, there's an option to extend it for another 10 years. But if we wanted to start from scratch again, we'd have to renew that and have another further conversation with the landowner and make sure everyone's happy with it.
Thank you and best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. We mentioned the construction jobs or the jobs during the construction phase. Once it's operational, I guess there was limited requirement for labour inputs, but what sort of ongoing labour might there be? And I suppose in particular, is there any call for higher value labour and not just someone slashing the grass, but does it require any high value maintenance?
It will. It won't be a full-time role, but having high voltage qualifications, which are highly sought after in this industry, will be a necessity for some of those operation and maintenance jobs, like the skills you need next door at the Transgrid substation.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just a question with regards to local suppliers during the construction. I understand this is a rather unique project for the region and something we haven't seen. So will there be opportunities during construction for local suppliers to be involved in it?
Yes, yeah. We're keeping open a community register of one sort, but on the side as well a list of contractors and subcontractors that get in touch with the project. We want to keep a register of those companies, those people and their capabilities so that they can be involved when the engineering, procurement and construction contractor is being reviewed. When we're looking to select one, we will be showing them that to make sure they look at the local content that's available.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Just in terms of you talked about 50 to 100 employees that you'll have initially. What are the plans in terms of seeking those people locally rather than bringing them from other areas? And will you be training them so that they will be employable post that use?
I can't speak with a high level of certainty on this. I need to be part of the engineering procurement consultancy contractor group, but we as a project will be asking them to use local expertise as far as possible. They will look for local expertise, but it will depend on what's available as well.
Any further questions, councillors? No? Well, thank you, Mr North, for that very informative update to the council and also to the community watching online. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along to the next item, councillors, is IPEC 22/10, the Dubbo project. We now have Mr Mike Sutherland here from Australian Strategic Minerals, I think it is, to give a presentation on the Dubbo project. Invite Mr Sutherland forward. Take it away, Mr Sutherland.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors and all those in attendance or listening online. Thank you for this opportunity to provide you with an update on the Australian Strategic Materials and its Dubbo project. A quick formality. Before getting started, please consider the disclaimer shown here. I won't go through it now, but if you do have the opportunity to review this later, it's important to read through it. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land where we're meeting today, the Willow-Wiradjuri people, and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Tonight I'll be talking about ASM's Dubbo project, which is centred on a large deposit of rare earths and critical minerals just south of Dubbo. The deposit was actually discovered back in the 1980s and has grown in importance over the past decade with the advance of technology and the demand for clean energy solutions, which rely heavily on critical minerals. Critical minerals are needed in common technologies that we use every day, like our mobile phones and laptops. They're also used in clean energy solutions like electric vehicles and wind turbines, which use high-strength permanent magnets that rely on critical minerals such as neodymium. With this in mind, ASM has a clear purpose: to deliver an alternative, secure and environmentally responsible supply of critical materials to the world that supports these new and advanced technologies and a clean energy future. The first step in achieving our purpose is based on building an exceptional mine-to-metals business, with Dubbo as our cornerstone project. The Dubbo project will extract ores from the Toongai deposit and process them to recover rare earths and other critical minerals such as zirconium, niobium and hafnium. When developed, the project will process 1 million tonnes of ore at Toongai to produce approximately 28,000 tonnes of critical minerals per annum. The project has been optimised on a 20-year mine life. However, the project's potential could be extended significantly longer. Critical minerals will be recovered from the crushed ore using a process tested and proven at our demonstration pilot plant at ANSTO Minerals facility down at Lucas Heights. Over the past 15 years, ASM has been working with ANSTO Minerals, and this work was actually made possible by an AusIndustry Commercial Ready grant for $3.3 million back in 2008. And interestingly, we actually heard about Commercial Ready at a Dubbo Chamber of Commerce business breakfast in Dubbo. This map shows the project site, which is 25 kilometres south of Dubbo near Toongai. The major project approval was granted in May 2015 by the Independent Planning Commission at the time, a delegate of the Minister of Planning and Environment. ASM then approved approval from the Commonwealth in August 2015. That approval, with specific conditions, will ensure that the conservation of a listed vulnerable species, the pink-tailed worm lizard, is secured. The mining lease, which is shaded in red on that plan, was granted in December 2015 and includes 2,390 hectares of land where the mine and processing facilities will be located. There's an additional area of land outside the mining lease, which is managed by Toongai Pastoral Company, a wholly owned subsidiary of ASM, responsible for managing the agricultural land and the biodiversity offsets around the site. An environment protection licence was granted by the EPA in March 2016. That licence places strict environmental limits on the project with respect to emissions to land, air and water. ASM plans to upgrade Oberley Road and Toongai Road to accommodate B-double transport. Roads will be widened, straightened, line marked and new bridges and culverts supplied. Refurbishment of the Dubbo to Toongai section of the Dubbo-Molong railway line is also planned to shift a large proportion of the transport task off-road. During the design phase of the railway line refurbishment, we will be contacting and consulting with neighbours, near neighbours and a range of stakeholders. In addition to planned upgrades, new infrastructure is also being planned. A water supply pipeline that will take water from the Macquarie River and a bore on the northern side of the river. ASM has all the necessary licences in place for that. A gas pipeline will also supply gas to the project from Dubbo. ASM has established an easement for a 132 kilovolt electricity transmission line that will go from the site back to Geary and is currently negotiating access to the grid. The Karingal Basalt Quarry, which is on ASM's site, will supply ballast and other construction materials to the project. Over the past 2 years, ASM has conducted an optimisation study on the Dubbo project, which was completed in December last year. The optimisation work incorporates new operating strategies that will reduce operating costs and improve the ESG performance of the project. These include refurbishment of the Dubbo to Toongai railway line, which simplifies project logistics and will significantly reduce the number of trucks on the road, construction of a chlor-alkali plant, which allows for production of hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide on site, removing the bulk of those reagents from the freight task. Construction of a brine concentrator, which allows for more efficient water treatment and recycling, halves the project's water consumption. Our strategy throughout construction is to minimise the impacts on local communities. These changes from the original approved project meant that we needed to submit a modification report to the Department of Planning and Environment. This has recently been submitted to the Department and we expect that report to go on public exhibition towards the end of this month. During the public exhibition period, the report will be available on the DPE website and members of the public will be able to provide feedback. Other recent developments for the project include signing a heads of agreement with Korea's Hyundai Engineering Corporation, or HEC. The agreement is for exclusive discussions for front-end engineering design, also called FEED, of the Dubbo project. Signing the heads of agreement with HEC is another key milestone, moving the project closer to final investment decision. We expect to start FEED in the next couple of months. ASM is now entering the next key stage of development for the Dubbo project as we progress towards FEED and a final investment decision. With demand for critical minerals growing exponentially, the timing of the Dubbo project represents an opportunity to deliver Australia a significant competitive advantage as an alternative trusted global supplier of critical minerals. The Dubbo project also supports the objectives of the state government's recently launched critical minerals and high-tech metal strategy, and at a local and regional level, the Dubbo project will benefit regional development and provide local employment opportunities. Current estimates are for 400 to 1,000 jobs to be created during the construction phase and 274 permanent personnel when operational. And that concludes my presentation this evening. I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr Sutherland. Any questions, councillors, for Mr Sutherland? Councillor Ivey.
Mr Sutherland, am I right? Did you say there'll be about 1 million tonnes of ore, well, not ore, of soil or dirt or whatever you call it, processed each year?
It's 1 million tonnes of hard rock. It's basically a lava flow.
And how, in 5 years or 10 years' time, what's that look like? I mean, what sort of...
Ultimately, it's an open cut mine. It'll be like a quarry. It's about 900 metres long and 500 metres across. Right. The first 20 years, which is our development approval, will be down about 25 or 30 metres. So we won't even reach the water table in the first 20 years.
Right. and obviously at some stage then that hole can be filled back in again.
Well, we would hope to mine it for 75 years. Okay. So this is a project that will be in Dubbo for a long time. Yeah.
And just a follow-up question to that, Mr Chairman, and I think you mentioned there'd be something like 28,000 tonnes of product come out of that, and that's about 2.8%, which I would have thought that's a fairly high percentage. Is that?
It's high compared to a gold mine, that's for sure. We move more than 10 million tonnes and produce a couple of tonnes of gold. Yeah. So, yeah, the rock is about 4% economic minerals. You can't get all of those, but it's reasonably high grade. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Dickerson.
Thanks, Mr Chairman. The critical thing that's been asked for a long time, Mr Sutherland, has been timing, and as you say, it's been discussed for a decade or more. Do you have any clearer indication about when serious activity might start out there on the site?
Activity should start in 2 weeks' time. We actually need to ensure that our consent from 2015 stays live, so we're actually going to build a site entrance road and a site office on site in the next couple of weeks. A DA or the Section 138 and various things have been put through council. We've had a site office built in Dubbo and that'll be taken out to site. People other than myself are actually organising the finance and we have a project scheduled to start construction next year, hopefully. Full-scale construction, so...
Thanks, Mr Chairman. Very exciting for Dubbo once it starts.
Thank you, Councillor Dickerson. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Chair. Mr Sutherland, I know there'll be a lot of community angst with respect to a number of the infrastructure works that'll be around the city that are directly involved with the project. When will the community start to expect some consultation coming back out that they may be able to provide feedback on?
Well, as soon as the document goes on the website, I guess it's open for public, and we'll put out a newsletter and invite people to comment on that. We are approved to use the railway line, so people will see people in fluoro, but we've actually worked with council to get the addresses of various people, and we'll actually door knock people and explain what it's all about. It is only going to be 3 trains a week to actually to do the transport task, and that takes a significant load off the roads, basically.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Can I just sneak in with one of my own questions while I think of it, before I forget it? How many trucks will reopening the railway line take off the road, please, Mr Sutherland?
At least 50, I think, per day. The project's actually approved to run 75 B doubles a day. So I think it'll come down around 22 trucks a day. So that's carting limestone. Those numbers do change, but the fact is we're actually approved to run 75 B doubles a day at certain hours of the day, and that's why we were basically instructed to do up the road, straighten it, widen it, and make it to B double standard.
Righto, thank you very much for that. Councillor Ivey, did I see you flick your finger for another question? We did, thank you.
A follow-up question too. Are there any synergies with the Badangra mine in Wellington?
Two different companies, because ASM's been demerged. I mean, the big synergy is actually relevant to the previous speaker, because we're actually hoping to run the Dubbo project net carbon zero. So we're interested in wind farms, solar, batteries, all those sort of things that can actually help us be one of the greenest projects in the world to produce critical minerals. The Badangra project, we're hoping to have a preliminary resource out in April this year, and I think perhaps that would be the time to come back and talk to councillors about what that means in April, so April or May or somewhere around there. Towards the end of April is when the preliminary resource will come out. So very separate projects. It's a gold mine, very different scale of mining if it happens. Yep.
Councillor Wright, yes.
I'll drop back in for one more, Mr Chairman. Thank you. Mr Sutherland, just to give us a bit of an idea of the importance of the project on an international scale, can you give us a bit of an idea of who we're competing against here? What other countries are currently producing the types of minerals that we're dragging out of the ground here in Dubbo?
Dubbo's a little bit unique, and we're not just rare earths. We've got these other metals like zirconium, hafnium and niobium. So Lynas, I think, is the only other significant rare earth producer in Australia, and it's been going for quite a while. But they actually they produce a concentrate and send that to Malaysia and then process it there. We're actually going to produce our concentrate here. There'll be summer we may even produce metal here as well. And ASM's actually built a metallisation plant in South Korea that'll actually turn the metal oxides from Dubbo into metal. So we're actually selling, as the saying is, sort of mine to metal will actually produce metal. So the off-takes that we're seeking are actually to supply these magnet metals and things like that. So the first few rows of furnaces have already been built at the metals plant in South Korea, and the Vice President of South Korea was actually there for the first metal pour. So getting back to your question, China controls a lot of the rare earths around the world, so a lot of countries are looking to de-risk their own businesses by not having to get everything from China, because if China eventually needs to turn off supply of those, it creates issues for other countries that are into high-tech manufacturing. And the Koreans, as you know, are very tech advanced country, and they do a lot of manufacturing, so they're keen to secure an alternative supply to China.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Just a quick question of my own, Mr Sutherland, if I may. The water use per year, what's the projected water use per year for the mine?
Around 2,000 megalitres a year, quite possibly less than that, but we were, when the EIS was done originally in 2013, we were looking at 4 gigs of water, but by introducing the brine concentrator, we can recycle a lot of water, so 2,000 megalitres is what we'd require.
All right, well, thank you very much. Well, that looks like it wraps it up. Thank you for that, very important update for council and the community watching online. Thank you, Mr Sutherland.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Next item, councillors, is IPC 22/10, the building summary for February 2022. Can I please have someone to move the recommendation of the report of the Director, Development and Environment? Councillor Goff, thank you. Someone to second that? Councillor Chowdhury, thank you. Any questions or debate, councillors? There being none, all those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. There are no further items for consideration of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 6:03 p.m.
I now open the March 2022 Culture and Community Committee. Item CCC 22/6, leave of absence. The first item of business is an apology. I have received an apology from Councillor Vicky Eldridge. Can I please have someone move the apology from Councillor Vicky Eldridge? Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Black. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Item CCC 22/7, conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? Moving on. Item CCC 22/8, multicultural park at Elizabeth Park. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Recreation of Open Space? Councillor Chowdhury, second by Councillor Black. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? Oh, I didn't see any.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I have I want to put a comment. I'm really thankful to current council and I'm just looking forward to that. That when the report come, I would like to the Elizabeth Park will be beautiful precinct from a cultural precinct, because there's a lot of cultural things happening, and I'm looking for the report to come. So I just put a comment on that.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Chairperson. There was also just a comment as well. Just two things, in fact, and I think once we see this report, hopefully it'll really highlight the importance of a master plan. You know, if we go back a number of years ago now, Elizabeth Park certainly wasn't what it is today. So certainly this project will fit really nicely into that cultural precinct up there. And the second one, I note that the funding for this review of the master plan, it has come from I note Trees Special Projects. There's a communication and education fund. I'd probably suggest that on the basis that we are looking to build a cultural park type precinct there, that the funding has come from an area which is similar to what the money's going to be going towards, I suppose. So I note that some members of the public might be concerned about where that come from, and I'd argue it's probably a similar location it's going to, I suppose. So.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's important to note that Councillor Chowdhury, actually got the ball rolling on this 12 months ago in a meeting. So, yes, well done now, Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Councillor Black. No more questions or debate? Okay. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Don't know what's going on there. Item CCC 22/9, Dubbo Regional Economic Development Services and Opportunity for Regional Development. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager of Economic Development? Councillor Chowdhury, second by Councillor Ivey. We have the Manager of Economic Development, Josie Howard, and will make a presentation.
Thank you, councillors. So economic development provides a service that looks at development of our economic landscape through a different lens. So whilst some areas of the development web have a regulatory role, the role that the branch plays in building relationships and working on both sides of the growth coin with commercial and public and government bodies, and the best ways to get the best outcomes for our region is what I'm going to be discussing tonight. So what we do in economic development and marketing as part of Dubbo Regional Council is the support for strategic, sustainable economic growth and development. This includes the support for small and medium-sized businesses, as well as the strategic attraction of major business and industry, and we usually do that in partnership with all different levels of government. We provide supply chain linkages, drive workforce engagement, and support the development of new industries by engaging existing businesses on major projects to integrate their businesses and diversify them with their skills so that they can get best leverage from these major projects. So the branch also supports the visitor economy, and we do that through product development support like the Great Big Adventure Pass, which you might know, supply chain development, packaging support and destination marketing. And I won't be speaking on the destination marketing tonight, but for context, destination marketing activity is driven completely through partnerships and all produced in-house for the purpose of growing our visitor economy, which is increasing the incoming spend into our LGA from outside visitors and increasing the product capacity so that people want to stay longer. So the Destination and Visitor Information Partnership programs, they support over 130 businesses that they pay money from their own budgets, and that includes an additional 5 local government councils that financially support the strategic destination marketing for Dubbo and the wider Greater Western Plains. Woo. So when speaking with potential investment about development opportunities, it's the local context of the data that is really important. So in terms of the Dubbo region, our data shows that we're a population generally of younger people, primarily families, with a potentially higher disposable income based on our average household income, and we have a growing regional population. And this is in comparison to other regional New South Wales centres. We're a diverse culture. We've got over 16% of our households across the LGA identifying having at least one Indigenous person living in their home. and over 15% of our population in the LGA identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people. The migrant population is growing 19% faster over the last decade than our overall regional New South Wales as a whole. So most significantly growing communities are from northwestern Europe, Oceania and southern and central Asia. So anecdotally, we also know in the community that in more recent years than the data that we have, that there's been positive growth in those Central Asian nationalities, including Indian and Nepalese peoples. And in this vein, the highest ranking languages spoken at home other than English are Nepalese and Central Asian. So the region's development applications in terms of numbers are progressively getting higher and higher, and I could take you through the graphs, but these satellite images are pretty powerful in telling that story. So the value and the count of the development applications has continued on a positive incline over the past decade across the whole LGA. So what you're seeing on the screen there is 2011 versus 2021. So it's jumped, so pre-2016, for example, Wellington's DAs were sitting at values between $5 to $6 million. In 2016, that jumped to $153.6 million based around grant funding. And the years post that initial development, the boost now is more than double the pre-16 values. And that's a result of a change to green energy focus with the RES and also coupled with significant residential growth. So the role that the branch plays here is in working closely across industry to provide a concierge service for development. So often developers or investments will come through the branch to ground check some ideas, check what the supply chain gaps are, and working with developers to navigate the planning systems to ensure that, yes, all the rules are being adhered to, but also that the true intent of a development is being realised. And this also supports our planning department by them being able to securely hold the rule book, but also for developers that they're able to have frank conversations with us in economic development about what they are trying to achieve, more so than what section of zoning their operation will fit into. And this also helps our planning department because they're able to hand over developers or businesses that aren't permissible in an area that they've applied for. And so they've gone through the planning door first, and we're able to work with them on their options. So we work with them on finding either different localities or linking them in with other businesses so they can partner with those businesses to grow. And they're generally more open with us about their financial situations, as we can help them with grant funding, we can assist them with challenges in their growth like finding skills or business planning, network engagement and marketing. So whilst we work closely together, planning and the ECDev teams do work on either side of the development coin to get the best outcome for the region and the best outcome for business. So from the numbers that I just discussed and the images on your screen now, it'd be no surprise that the key sector of our economy across the whole region is construction. And that's our primary industry, followed by healthcare and social assistance, and agriculture rounds out that top three. So construction is really important because it crosses over into so many different industries as part of its delivery. So for the Dubbo region, construction is the top of all four industry drivers. So that's being a supply chain provider, exporting the most amount of product, employing the most amount of people, and adding the most gross value to our GRP, so putting the most money back into our economy. Agriculture is the most important industry to Wellington as a standalone, and it's a key driver again in exports and employment and in adding money back into that GRP. So understanding this data is actually really important for us in economic development, as we represent these industries at the table of decision makers for major contract development in state government works, such as the Mindiera maintenance facility, and the connection to social procurement and impact strategies for the renewable energy zone. So as part of these two major projects, Council has had a direct line into the parameters around tender documentation, the structure around local and regional procurement, and has a respected seat at the table regarding positive impacts being realised for employment and local business engagement. The visitor economy across the Dubbo region is actually really significant as well. So despite long lockdowns and almost crippling restrictions, recent times have seen some great results for our tourism operators. Drought had a much more significant impact on our overall regional visitation than COVID. And in 2020-2021, many of our businesses thrived. Post-lockdowns, when consumers were looking for authentic, quality family product that wasn't connected to screens, wasn't connected to Zoom meetings, in an environment that felt safe, that you could drive to in your own car in comfort, the Dubbo region boomed. And Taronga Western Plains Zoo has been named the major tourism attraction in New South Wales, beating out the likes of the Sydney Bridge Climb to claim the honour. They are now running for the #1 tourism attraction in Australia. With the international borders now opening, there is a great opportunity to leverage not only these established tourism operations, but also the new developments which are entering the market at a really opportune time. With opportunities in mind, international tourism is a significant opportunity for the Dubbo region. As the product comes in line with, at an opportune time to leverage the borders opening, pent-up demand, value in authentic product and consumer rationalisation for wide open spaces. People want to get out somewhere that's got a lot of space, where they feel safe, where they can have an adventure with their family and reconnect. On February this year, Tourism Australia launched a new campaign internationally to encourage travellers to book their next big holiday to Australia. The byline is, "Don't go small, go Australia." With that in mind, the adventure tourism market that our products speak to, particularly in line with the family adventure market, can play a key role in leveraging this larger campaign activity. So this leveraging activity is planned to be across both the corporate and the leisure markets. And myself as the manager and the director are also regularly meeting and keeping in relevant contact with DNSW and tourism stakeholders to leverage the usual visitation, which is about 8.7 million people coming offshore to visit Australia, through combined packaging or market conversion, either when they're overseas or once they reach Australian soil, focusing on those opportune areas across the eastern coast where we've already got brand recognition. So with that in mind, it's interesting that the Indian market is a growing community residential demographic, but visiting friends and relatives is also a really strong destination market for the region. And internationally, India is looking really strong in terms of intent to travel. So this information can then form part of those conversations that happen both with tourism agencies as well as our local operators in terms of both packaging product and our destination marketing. So to support these strategic goals for the region, the Economic Development Branch instigates programs and provides support that mitigate the areas that we as a region recognise are risks or areas of concern to an employing business moving into the region. So these types of activities can range from strategic stakeholder engagement like the CBD Attraction Strategy, through to the provision of operational plans based off strategic partnerships like the regional skills shortage, through to leveraging the major industry development like the Critical Minerals Hub and the renewable energy zones. So the unemployment rate in Dubbo is historically low. So whilst we have seen it rise from around 2% to just above 4% in recent months, 5% unemployment is considered to be full employment for a locality. So the workforce is tight, and we recognise that. So when we're trying to attract new industry, and we know that there's no pool of people just waiting there for their employment. So through directly addressing these stress points and what we're able to assist new industry and developing businesses to target the required skills by doing direct target marketing into areas where we know that they have got people who have got a lot of skills in that area. So the campaign platform is currently focused on heavy industry, trades and health, but they're able to be changed with the platform being really nimble in terms of the needs of the region. So basically the platform aims to connect people with businesses through a simple referral of contacts and CVs. So people who are interested in jobs upload their CVs and they register their primary skills, and employers looking for people upload what skills they're looking for, and then we join the dots. So off the back of the February campaign alone, you can see that close to 4,500 people were attracted to the skills website, that close to 1,000 people clicked through from that website to view jobs in Dubbo, and that 210 people actually took the time to fill out a form and register their skill to say that they were looking to move to Dubbo and that they had skills that were relevant to our region. So the Dubbo region is also home, as we've just heard about this morning, just recently, I should just say, this morning, just now, is home to two of the most advanced major New South Wales developments in the New South Wales Critical Minerals Hub and the Central West Renewable Energy Zone. So there's a global race happening at the moment as countries are looking at options to decouple from the monopoly of China relating to critical minerals and secure supply chains to supply and process those critical minerals and high-tech metals. So these minerals, which we have in our LGA, and also, as you can see on the map, in the area that Dubbo services as a service centre, are critical because there is no other viable substitute for them. So the Dubbo region is the most advanced project for critical minerals. The ASM development, and with its alignment to the RES, and the transportation options and the opportunities that are presented through the ParkSat, deems Dubbo the first New South Wales critical minerals hub, and they launched the New South Wales strategy at the ASM development, which shows the importance of our region. So that all pieces in nicely with the renewable energy zone, as critical minerals also play a really key role in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. They're used in the production of renewable energy technologies like batteries and solar panels and wind turbines, and they're also an enabler for a range of global and domestic industries, including advanced manufacturing, defence, aerospace, automation, electric transport, and through both of our partnerships with government and other agencies, as well as through our own direct contacts coming directly through to the branch, we are seeing a significant lift in this type of development inquiry. So businesses are already looking to leverage the Dubbo region as it's well placed for land, transport and energy options, as well as our connection to low carbon energy. So we are positioned well into the future. So as I mentioned, we are in the triangle of some of the most advanced projects relating to critical minerals, the renewable energy zone and the special activation precincts, which means that in terms of businesses ready to take advantage of these strategic projects and looking to onshore manufacturing as established businesses, the Dubbo region is a very attractive option for their future development. So the way that we make conversions in this space is both active and reactive. So we provide support to the state government agencies with information relating to some of the data that I've gone through with you all today, such as land, demography, existing supply chains of businesses, transportation, other major project links, and then they put us in a mix with other regional centres, and then when we reach a shortlist with a business, they'll make introductions, and then we'll work in partnership to secure support from grant funding or relocation services and assist to secure that new development in our region. Sometimes there's links to overarching strategies and they're used for proactive attraction, such as our own strategic identification through gap analysis, and we determine those through our spend data or future planning in relation to capital works for skills attraction. And finally, the strategic implementation where we have received stakeholder feedback, such as our CBD activation plan. So the development of investment attraction collateral, such as what's on your screen, and the maintaining of the Dubbo region and the Dubbo Regional Council brand in the consideration set for holistic economic development opportunities is incredibly important. So part of this is the development of target investment material across traditional and digital media relevant to the product promise of the region. So the branch is currently finalising the suite of attraction material in this space that will support investment attraction. And in the same way that the Dubbo Region Visitor Guide supports the visitor economy as a string in what is a bow of multifaceted sets of information. Wow. So the main directive of the branch's work, post what has been a focus on COVID recovery, has been tasked with us leveraging these large strategic projects in the region and supporting the development of employing industries through investment attraction. So whilst there is a web of activities that need support in this growth and sustainable development, what I've presented this evening, this is enabled through the ownership of several data platforms, as well as the team is enabled to monitor everything from consumer spending in the region through to developments, through to visitation, booking intent, demographic and community-based information, and then we overlay all those numbers with a story and a brand that depicts the region, and that's what sets us apart. But one of the major contributors to this success, and that runs from new resident attraction through to new industry attraction, has been the whole team at Dubbo Regional Council, and that ECDEV works hard to concierge across all different types and levels of inquiries through all different types and paths through council. So whilst both within the branch and those other areas of council, such as planning, such as property development, infrastructure services, the customer-facing businesses have all been nimble in their responses, and clients tell us through their feedback that Dubbo Regional Council is easy to deal with and upfront with our responses. These relationships will be what continue to be at the central to our success and the sustained economic growth of the Dubbo region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Howard. Any questions? No. Councillor Ivey.
The Trade Up to Dubbo program sounds like a really good idea. I must admit I hadn't heard it or seen it. So how was it promoted, or how did I, if I lived in Penrith or something, how did I hear about it?
So it's promoted out of market. So we are looking at doing some stuff in the region as well. So that would be why you haven't heard about it, because we're not targeting in the region yet. But it's got two levels of that. One is a digital targeting for people where basically we've done some ABS research. So we know that we're looking for a lot of tradespeople. We know we're looking for a lot of medical and allied health people. So we've worked out where those people live, and then we are doing geo-targeted marketing to those places to talk about not only how good it is to live in Dubbo and Wellington, but also the types of jobs that you can do, and that you're not going to be, losing your career opportunity by trading up to the Dubbo region. And then the other part of it is we're going directly out to some of those businesses that we know are having pain points at the moment, particularly around construction and medicine, and saying, hey, if you sign up with us, and they place their jobs on the platform, and then what we do is we link those people that come from out of the LGA through those people that are looking for jobs.
Councillor Martin. Moving on. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to thank the marketing team for what they're doing, and it shows that Dubbo is more than just a jail, a zoo and an underground caves network at Wellington, and that we're more than just a tourist destination, and that's really well done. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other questions? Okay. Moved by Councillor...
Oh, we've got that
Hang on.
down.
Have we?
It's all right, you can move into the vote.
Oh.
Let's move to the vote. All those in favour?
All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Oops, my bad. Okay. Item CCC 22/10, Destination Dubbo, Internal Ready Quarterly Report. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Director, Culture and Economy? Moved by Councillor Wright, second by Councillor Black. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Okay. Item CCC 22/11, the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre Stage 2. This item was originally to be determined in a closed committee, however Council has decided to hear this item in open council. Can I have someone move that this item be heard in open council? Moved by Councillor Chowdhury, second by Councillor Wells. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? Carried. Okay, item CCC 22/11, the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre Stage 2. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Regional Experiences? Councillor Wright, second by Councillor Chowdhury. Any questions or debate? I'd like to call the Manager of Regional Experiences, Jamie Angus, to come forward and make a presentation.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and good evening, councillors. Firstly, I would just like to acknowledge and pay respect to the people of the Wiradjuri Nation, the traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on today. This acknowledgement has additional significance due to the project that I will be presenting today, and in making this acknowledgement, I would like to thank the many community members and organisations that have contributed to the development of this project. Tonight I'll be providing Council an overview of one of the Destination Dubbo projects, the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre. And after Josie's fantastic presentation, I certainly don't need to sell you on the merits and importance of a strong tourism industry and presence within the Dubbo region and the significant impact it provides to the visitor economy. Oh, I'm going to move. Okay. So this evening, there's a few things that I'm going to take you through, but the main thing that we're looking to do is give an overview of the whole Wiradjuri Tourism Centre, the information on the staged approach that we've actually taken with the development of this project, and that was based on a large amount of community consultation that we've worked through over the last 2 years, so 24 months, as well as significant consultation since 2013. The staged approach was something that we wanted to ensure was developed within this facility so we could see this facility continue to grow and also be able to deliver so many of the fantastic financial outcomes that we can get from this facility, but more importantly, the wonderful community outcomes that can be delivered and a lot of response to the community's requests what this facility should be. As I'll be going through the stages, I'll be outlining what is contained in each of the stages, and that is in our councillor's report tonight. It goes into a lot more detail. We'll be talking very quickly about the preferred business options and the alternatives that we have assessed as we've been developing this business with community. And those are in the appendices that are attached to this report, some of those key decisions that we made as we were going through the development of this. And then finally, we're going to discuss, and I'm seeking endorsement from the Council to progress with a grant application for $5 million through the Creative Capital, Create New South Wales Government funding stream, that will allow us to proceed with stage 2 of the Wiradjuri Centre development at the same time as the construction of stage 1. So quick background, as I mentioned, this is part of the Destination Dubbo International Ready project, which was a partnership with the New South Wales Government's Regional Growth, Environment and Tourism Fund, which was to deliver the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre, the Old Dubbo Jail Heritage Plaza and the Macquarie River Foreshore Events Precinct. The allocation of funding of that towards the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre was that $4.1 million. Construction of stage 1 is set to commence this year, and additional stages of the projects are currently unfunded, and they are listed within your report as well. So the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre, we are working with an amazing architect by the name of Peter Stutchbury, who is helping us to finalise the designs of the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre. This is a depiction of what the centre yarning circle will look like once the facility is actually constructed. And I've just got a few other photos here of different aspects of the building itself. These are only preliminary drawings though at this stage. If I can progress, there we go. And that's large outdoor water feature. And as you can see, the walls themselves, we're looking to create those out of rammed earth. We're really ensuring that this facility is environmentally sustainable and really connected with country, with using as many elements of natural resources in actually the creation of the building itself. And another image of the yarning circle area. So you can see large open spaces, certainly what we're going for here. Tick. Might be a little bit hard to zoom in on, but that's just a draft sketch of what the place will look like. And the reason I'm showing that one is that it also shows our holding place down at the bottom. So the holding place is something that community has asked for, and we're really keen to ensure that any artefacts that we are repatriating or taking out of private collections or potentially other museum collections around Australia and potentially internationally, when they're returned to country, that there is actually a separate place for these to be stored and ensure that appropriate community-led curation of these items are actually done. That holding place is not something that would be part of the tourism experience necessarily. It will be located on the site, but the entrance and access to that building will be completely community-led by the Indigenous community. So I just want to make sure that's very clear in what we're doing here. The rest of the facility, I will click to the next picture because it's a little bit more in detail. And I've got a big red mark on there, but the red mark is indicating what will be delivered as part of stage 2. So as you can see, quite a large round building, and from that design, hopefully you can see that the beauty of that, not so much on this design, but certainly the beauty of it in those images. The top part of the in the northern section, you can see a very large outdoor dining area will be part of a edible garden and a medicinal garden with an outdoor classroom setting that will be attached to a cafe. So this is all what's being delivered in stage 1. We also have an artist in residence studio workshop, as well as amenities, and we also have a commercial art gallery, a souvenir section that will be focused on ensuring that we have handmade Indigenous product. We're not looking to put commercialised product in there. We are looking at local, preferably local Wiradjuri handmade items to be put into that souvenir section, and that is the same for the actual commercial art gallery. So it is an Indigenous commercial art gallery where we'll be working to develop programs where local Wiradjuri artists will be able to display their works for commercial sale. There also will be a paid entry into a tourism style section of the area, and that's very similar to the old Dubbo Jail in the fact that it got a cover charge there to actually get in and actually experience the museum section of the actual the tourism product itself. And the concept behind that is we want to make sure this facility is as sustainable as possible financially, as well as environmentally, but financially sustainable to ensure that this product is available for many years to come. In the second stage, again, in your report, you will see that the report highlights what is delivered in stage 2. And what we believe in stage 2 is some additional items that will really allow the financial sustainability of this facility to be maintained, but also give us some really fantastic community outcomes in those areas as well. So the first area is the we're calling them now a multi-use space, which will be able to be used for either educational rooms for school groups and different community groups to use. We are also looking to have corporate hire space in those rooms for meetings for different groups. And that space can also be converted into a large event area as well. So when we have special events that's happening in the region that are suitable to be provided within this facility, that area we might be able to host special dinners and those type of things, and also special celebrations for Indigenous culture in this area. On the other side, the area we're expanding is the what we're calling our immersive space, and that's an extension of the tourism experience itself. So that's a tourism area that will open up and allow a further experience, and we're hoping that from that will increase the amount of people attending the facility, but also allow us to increase the ticket income as well, so therefore providing more money back to the facility to ensure that it's open for a very, very long time. As far as the business operations go, I won't go into too much detail because I could talk for hours on all of the things that we've talked about with the business operations. But the key items that we've really want to make sure we highlight, and you will see a lot of the alternatives that we did discuss with community and we've worked on ourselves. The facility will be operated by council, working with community through an advisory board to oversee the governance and the strategic operational outcomes. That advisory board will be Indigenous advisory board that will help us put the cultural lens on how we should operate this facility moving forward. We are hoping to find a suitable contractor, an Indigenous contractor that will come in and run our cafe operations and preferably do our ticket sales and our general paid experience in that area as well. What we're hoping from that is that the cafe operator will be able to be our ticket provider to the experience, but also that gives them an additional revenue as well, because we will pay them a commission to actually sell our tickets for us, but it also takes the pressure off the organisation to actually staff the facility all year round, and we're hoping this to be open 7 days a week all year round. The programming will be managed by council staff. We are looking to very soon put an Indigenous curator within the team of the cultural development team within the Regional Experiences branch, and we also will have a programming team leader that will run the operations up at the facility day to day. And that programming team leader, and that's a working title name. We're hoping that the outcomes that person will be delivering will be working with a number of community members to provide a range of different activations at the site and cultural activations. We're really keen to ensure that this facility is a very hub and spoke approach to the way that we run, and when I say hub and spoke is that we will attract a large number of people, large number of tourists to this facility, and we will encourage them to go out and after they get a little taste of Wiradjuri culture at our facility, they will be able to go out and maximise their experience by using a range of other Indigenous tourism operators, tour guides, other facilities, and that is right around the region and potentially further afield with things like the Brewarrina fish traps and those type of things. So we're really keen to ensure that this is just a taster of the wonderful culture that we have here, and we believe that a lot of other businesses will be able to leverage off this facility. And the final point to that is we're looking to install in this facility a business development hub, and we are working with we're currently talking with a range of providers who may be able to provide that service for us, and they would be located within this facility, and the whole point of that is for them to do Indigenous business development activation within our site, and what we're hoping is that they can also leverage off the facility. And you know, some great examples I've already been starting conversations with are things like people who might make an Indigenous line of earrings or dresses or a range of different things, and we can actually put those in our souvenir room up there and actually allow pathways for these businesses as they develop to actually reach quite a large audience. So that's what we're hoping for. Finally, the last part of the report speaks to, as I mentioned at the start, a fantastic opportunity that I believe Council has at the moment, and I'm seeking endorsement for us to apply for a $5 million grant. We have passed the first expressions of interest with Create New South Wales, and they were very favourable towards us progressing to the next step of doing a full business analysis and business case forward in a full application for the $5 million. I have mentioned on there that the funding is, there is at this stage no need for the funding to be matched at all, so there is no contribution from Council to match funding as part of this application. Although highlighted in the report, you will see that there are some ongoing costs, in particular with depreciation of us building this next section of the building. So there's a few things to consider in regards to that. The application we are currently working on, it is due on the 28th of March, and we will find out if we're successful with the Stage 2 application in May 2022, and that will allow us to build Stage 2 at the same time as we're building Stage 1, which I think is a very unique and I think fortunate position, and hopefully we are successful with that application. And that is all I have. So, any questions?
Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I note in particular the admission fees and the program of increase in admission fees, and the admission fee for First Nation elders is $0, which is a nice touch, I think, there. I'm interested in the 2830 program at the Old Dubbo Jail, whether we're still running that program that used to be run there where you could get free entry into the jail, and whether something similar has been considered for this for local people, maybe even just initially, so people can see that in the initial stages. It'll be a new attraction. The way I think that we'll get lots of people going through is when the visiting friends and relatives market visits, which is mentioned by the previous speaker, then getting those people to be taken along by those friends. So I'm actually not sure whether the old 283 program is still running, but whether something like that's being considered.
Yeah, certainly, Councillor Dickinson. The 2830 program is no longer running because we've expanded it, so it's no longer 2830, it's actually the inmates program. So it actually encapsulates Wellington and all people within the LGA, and we do still have that program running, and it is free entry. We also have the mates rates out at the Wellington Caves, where there's a half price discount for tours out at the Wellington Caves. So it's free entry at the jail, half price tours at the caves, and that's based on the fact that the caves is a guided tour, whereas the Old Dubbo Jail is a self-guided tour. Certainly, to answer your question, as we progress through this, we will definitely be working further with community on developing this pricing. This is indicative pricing at the moment. We will be taking it to the committee and the governance team that will oversee this, and I certainly believe that that is certainly worth consideration, and we have already discussed it. We will be looking to community to help us make those decisions.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further questions? All right. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a comment, and look, I've noticed that there's been the odd barb thrown towards council with respect to maybe not putting their hand up for enough grant funding in certain circumstances. So, look, obviously, I would hope that the community be pretty supportive of council reaching out for a $5 million grant to complete that project. So, just a comment.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further questions? Councillor Ivey.
Just a general question. How's the program and the proposal going as far as time frames are concerned? Is it hopefully on budget? Is it on time? And what sort of time frame are we looking at for development and completion of stages 1 and possibly stage 2?
Absolutely. From the initial project, we are not on time. We are still on budget. We are not on time, but there has been significant, impacts to that. Obviously, COVID, and we wanted to make sure, and we learned very early in this process that community needed a very strong voice in this, and we wanted to give community that time to have that voice, and we're still listening. But we are now at the stage where we can start progressing a little bit more, and after considerable work in that area. We are on track to commence construction this year. I do believe at this stage we are still waiting. We're about to go through the DA process. I think early next year will be when the facility will be opening. So I would probably say March, April next year, 2023. Yep.
Any further questions? I just want to make a comment. I just want to commend council staff for the amount of community consultation they've done and the amount of input they're letting the community make. I just think it's pretty incredible. As this item was moved to... Oh. Okay. Sorry, backstepping. For all those in favour? Okay. I declare this motion carried. As this item was moved to open session, the council report would be available online tomorrow, and the Executive Manager of Governance and Internal Control will read the recommendation. Thank you, Ms. Rouse.
The recommendation is 1. Council acknowledges the contribution of the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre to the region's visitor economy and community engagement. 2. Council endorses the Chief Executive Officer to progress a successful expression of interest application to apply for $5 million with the New South Wales Government Agency Create, New South Wales Creative Capital funding stream for the delivery of Stage 2 of the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre. 3. If the funding application is successful, Council endorses Stage 2 of the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre be constructed in parallel with Stage 1, noting the project delivery efficiencies in addition to the associated Stage 2 asset depreciation, operating costs and income opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rouse. There are no further items for consideration of the Culture and Community Committee, and I declare the meeting closed at 6:49 p.m.
I now open the March 2022 Corporate Services Committee meeting. First item, CSC 22/7, leave of absence. The first item of business is apologies, and I've received an apology from Councillor Vicky Etheridge. Can I please have someone move that the apology from Councillor Etheridge is accepted? Thanks, Councillor Wells. Seconded, Councillor Wright. All those, any questions or debate? All those in favour? Thank you. Conflicts of interest is item CSC 22/8. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare, please? No conflicts, thank you. Item CSC 22/9, draft council policy, payment of expenses and provision of facilities for the Mayor and councillors. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Executive Manager, Governance and Internal Control? Moved Councillor Gough, seconded Councillor Black. Any questions or debate? Okay, all those in favour or against? In favour, sorry. Yep, thank you. The passed. Motion carried. Item CSC 22/10, draft terms of reference for the community committees. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Executive Manager, Governance and Internal Control? Thanks, Councillor Shibley. Seconder, Councillor Wells. Any questions or debate? Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I'd like to move an amendment, please. The amendment would be that leave the existing 3 points as they are. Point 4, that the Renewables Committee be removed, and point 5, that a Villages Committee be added with draft terms of reference to be developed.
Thanks, Councillor Dickinson. Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Chowdhury. Would you like to speak to the amendment, Councillor Dickinson?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. So there's 2 points there. The Renewables Committee seemed like an extra layer that we're introducing into the process. We've already got the Consultative Committee that makes decisions or makes recommendations about where the expenditure of that money comes to, and that then ultimately comes to Council for Council to make a decision. By having the Renewables Committee there, it sends recommendation to the committee and then goes to Council. It seemed like an extra layer that we don't really need. It doesn't really achieve anything. So that's my desire, to have that Renewables Committee removed. And the Villages Committee, we did have some discussions about how we might engage the villages in a process to have the villages have some input into things that are happening throughout the region, throughout the LGA. And we had some discussion about possibly having some town hall meetings, but I still think there's some value in having a Villages Committee. Where possible, we'll be able to have people from the various villages. We're talking about Stewarttown, Mumble, Wongarbin, Ballymore, etc., having them come in via Teams meetings and also physically in a physical meeting. But on top of that, what we should do, and it's not part of the recommendation, but if this goes through and eventually becomes a committee, I'd like the idea that we actually have those village committee meetings distributed throughout the LGA. Logically, those committee meetings will be held 4 times a year, and that would give us a chance to go to essentially the 4 points of the LGA to give people a chance to travel short distances when it was in their neck of the woods. So I think that Villages Committee in particular would be something that would be giving people from those villages a voice on council.
Thanks, Councillor. Anybody like to speak against the amendment? No other comments? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I just wanted to make a comment in terms of, I think it's a really good idea for us as a council to be going to those communities, offering the opportunity for them to be able to come and have their voice at a location closer to them. So I'm very much in support of the amendment.
Thanks, Councillor Wells. Councillor Ivey?
I'd just like to speak in support too of the amendment to remove the Renewables Committee. Certainly I've been talking to a lot of the members of the community, and there's a little bit of uncertainty or a little bit of misunderstanding exactly how the renewables funding works within the community. There's the community consultative committees, and they have a community benefit fund process whereby they decide on various allocations of funds to that community benefit fund within their communities. It then went to the Renewables Committee, who then acted upon that those recommendations, and in turn put another recommendation through to the council. And that just seemed to, it certainly has given rise to a bit of disconnect between the community and the council. There's an extra stage in there, which I don't know that it really added any benefit. Whereas if the community committees now report directly to the council, I think that really will help give the community a bit more a sense of ownership of their decision making, and I think that's very important.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, no more comments or questions. I now put the amendment to the vote. Thanks. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. So now the amendment becomes the motion. I now put the motion. Do I need another mover or seconder? Or?
No, you had the originals.
Got the originals. Okay, so this motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Item CSC 22/11 investments under section 625 of the Local Government Act, February 2022. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Acting Chief Financial Officer? Councillor Black, moved. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ivey. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. There are no further items for consideration of the Corporate Services Committee, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 6:56 p.m. Web streaming has now been completed. Thank you all for your attendance, and good night.